Good evening. It is time for the Iman Report. It is Wednesday night, November 4th. I hope everybody is having a good week. Time to preview NFL Week 9. We are going to kick off with the Thursday night game. A game that I honestly think should be moved to a different day with the 49ers and Packers both having players testing positive for COVID 19. And now the 49ers are pretty much going to be without their wide receivers due to the COVID issue. Kendrick Bourne testing positive for COVID 19. Brandon Ayuk unavailable due to COVID. And on top of that, they lose Trent Taylor to COVID. So it makes adding insult to injury with the 49ers' long list of injuries. Green Bay, they have a running back that has tested positive for COVID. He's gone. Green Bay's not going to have their running backs. But this next 8 weeks is an audition for Nick Mullins to see if he can hold down the starting job going into 2021. Jimmy Garoppolo pretty much done for 2020 after re-aggravating his ankle sprain. I don't think he's coming back this year. Same thing with George Kittle. George Kittle hurt for the rest of the year. The injuries, the COVID is just going to be too much for the Niners. Their offense is down to Trent. Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor, River Craycraft, and a bunch of rookies. You might even have to now elevate Daniel Helm from the practice squad. JaMycal Hasty, it's your turn. JaMycal Hasty should be able to get some rushing yards against this terrible run defense. And, I think the defense might keep the Niners in the game, but they're not going to win the game. No. Green Bay is going to win, but I don't have confidence they're going to cover the spread. Now on to the Sunday games. Green Bay, the 7.5 point favorites. I don't think they're going to cover the 7.5 point spread. The Chicago Bears against the Tennessee Titans. These are two teams that have lost 2 in a row and are trending in the wrong direction. Chicago, great on defense. Offense, questions. Chicago doesn't run the ball. You don't know what you're going to get out of from Nick Foles from week to week. Tennessee, good offense. Defense is terrible. Both teams have lost 2 in a row and are looking for a win to stay relevant in the playoffs. NFC, Chicago is probably going to be in the playoffs regardless, just because the NFC is that bad of a division. AFC, this is a game the Titans cannot afford to lose, especially with the Indianapolis Colts coming up the next 2 out of 3 games after this. Who wins? Tennessee made a move to upgrade their defense. If Chris Henry is able to get Derrick Henry is able to run the football and Ryan Tannehill gets going, I think they're looking to bounce back after a piss-poor performance last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to go with the Titans. Vegas is favoring the Titans at 6 points. Titans win, but I am not confident they're going to cover the spread. In another game with question marks, in Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings play the Detroit Lions. The big question going into this game is, will Matthew Stafford start? Matthew Stafford flagged for COVID-19 again. Now, we'll see if the next test he tests negative or positive or not. That will be up to that. If Matthew Stafford plays, I think Detroit's defense will be able to shut down. I think they're going to be good enough to shut down Kirk Cousins, but you don't know what you're going to get out of the running game of Minnesota. If it ends up being Chase Daniel, then I am going to likely go with Minnesota. So I am going to pick this game upon the assumption that Matthew Stafford is playing. I am going to go with the Detroit Lions. The favorite in this game is the Minnesota Vikings. I am not going to be confident with this spread because of the questions regarding Matthew Stafford. So this would be a game I would avoid betting on. All right, in one of the toilet bowl games of the week, the Washington football team will play the New York Giants. Washington, the 3-point favorites. This is a tough one. New York played pretty well last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Daniel Jones has not been great. Then you get Washington. Washington coming off a win against Dallas. Kyle Allen had his best game of the year against. I think Washington's going to look for a little revenge. Kyle Allen looked better in his last game against Dallas. If Washington's able to run the football and play good defense, I think Washington wins. Washington being at home, I am going to go with the Washington football team, but I am not confident they're going to cover the spread. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks against the Buffalo Bills. Seattle, the 3-point favorites. Seattle coming off a rebound win against the 49ers where DK Metcalf went off and Russell Wilson got right in this game. Now they get Carlos Dunlap in the Seattle secondary. They might get Jamal Adams back. This might be a game. We'll see. We're going to find out a lot about Buffalo in the next few weeks. Buffalo's got to play some tougher opponents. But the Buffalo defense has just been terrible this year. So I am going to go with Seattle. I think Seattle's going to win in Buffalo. Seattle's going to cover the spread. Next game, we've got one of the underrated games of the week. The Baltimore Ravens against the Indianapolis Colts. Ravens, the 2.5-point favorites. Lamar Jackson is looking a bit more mortal these last couple games. Lamar Jackson may be regressing the last couple games. But here's the thing. You're going up against Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, so-so quarterback. I think the Baltimore defense will have a good game against Indianapolis. I think this game will very likely be a low-scoring football game. It will come down to who can run the football better. I'm going to say I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game, and I might take Baltimore to cover the spread. So give me Baltimore. Next one in Kansas City, the Carolina Panthers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Carolina, the last couple games, they're starting to look like the Carolina we thought we'd see. Carolina's finally hitting their correction. They're getting Christian McCaffrey back, which is good, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Chiefs. Not by a long shot. Kansas City steamrolling the Jets last week. I think it's going to be more of the same against the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be a fun day for Patrick Mahomes. It'll be another day in the office for Patrick Mahomes. Give me Kansas City. Kansas City wins. Kansas City covers. Next up, one of the toilet bowl games of the week. The Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Texans, the 6.5 point favorites. Just simply because, Deshaun Watson is that much better of a quarterback than Gardner Minshew or whoever is starting. I don't think it's Minshew starting this week, though. It is Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon, not a good quarterback either. Minshew is a honestly, Minshew's more of a backup quarterback. He is not a starter caliber quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, both teams have only one win, but I think this is going to be the week. Houston gets win number 2. Houston wins. Houston covers. In Atlanta, the Falcons take on the Denver Broncos. Denver coming back from a 24-3 deficit against the LA Chargers last week. Now they play Atlanta. Denver's defense is banged up. I honestly, Atlanta right now is favored in this game by 3.5 points. I'm going to say here that Atlanta's going to have a good game. Atlanta is 2-1 under interim head coach Raheem Morris. Atlanta's looking a lot more fun under Raheem Morris. Denver, I don't know what you're going to get out of Drew Lock from week to week. Lock might be able to hang in there because Atlanta's defense is not that great. I think Noah Fant could have a good game. All things being equal, it's going to come down to Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon running the football in order for Denver to have a chance against Atlanta. But honestly, I think Matt Ryan's just going to be too much for Denver. I am taking Atlanta to win, Atlanta to cover. And we see interim head coach Raheem Morris start making his case to be the full-time head coach in Atlanta in 2021. In a pick'em game in LA, it's the Las Vegas Raiders against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers, surprisingly, a 1-point favorite in this game. And the question is, why? Why are the Chargers the favorites? You do have a good offense with Justin Herbert. Granted, the Raiders' defense isn't that good. But the Chargers' defense has been downright awful the last few games. They've given up close to 30 points a game. They've blown leads. Problem is, Derek Carr is a better Derek Carr is having a great year with the Raiders right now. You've got Josh Jacobs, who can run the ball up and down the field. LA, you've got a coach who's likely coaching for his job in Anthony Lynn. After losing to Denver, blowing that lead to Denver, Anthony Lynn's on the hot seat. There's a really good chance that there could be a coaching vacancy with the Chargers come 2021. The Raiders are a better team. The Raiders are going to likely compete at least be in the playoff hunt this year in the wild card race. I'm liking the Raiders. Raiders are going to win this game. Next game up, the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Dallas Cowboys. Pittsburgh, the 13.5-point favorites, against the Ben DiNucci special. Ben DiNucci, a good Italian restaurant, not a good quarterback. And Dallas, they're just, I think at this point, Dallas is tanking for 2021. I don't know how many wins Dallas will ultimately end up, but Dallas is pretty much tanking for the draft at this point. This game's not even going to be close. Give me Pittsburgh. And we get the Miami Dolphins against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, the 4-point favorites. Cardinals have been good the last few weeks. Cardinals are 5-2. Cardinals could be actually a legitimate wildcard team this year. So these are two teams that are surprisingly in the playoff race. On the AFC side, Miami with defense. Miami's defense gets the job done. Tua's debut wasn't great, but it was good enough. They're not asking Tua to do too much. Tua just needs to be a game manager and not make mistakes. If he does that, Miami gets themselves in the playoffs. Who wins? I think Miami's defense might just be good enough. They're going to be able to make life difficult for Kyler Murray. They're going to force Kyler Murray to use his arm. Murray's not the most accurate passer Kyler Murray is not exactly the most accurate passer. He is a good runner. This game's going to be close, but I am taking an upset here. I'm going to go Miami. Miami's showing they have all the makings of a playoff team this year. Arizona, you're going to be in the playoffs, but I don't think this is going to be your day. But I think Arizona, they are going to be one of the teams. They might be the 7 seed come playoff time. In another game of the week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the New Orleans Saints. Buccaneers are 4.5-point favorites. And you're going to see the Buccaneer debut of AB Antonio Brown. The good news for the Saints, Michael Thomas is coming back. Emmanuel Sanders is coming back. This could be a shootout. Then again, this could also be the game where the Buccaneers come out and sends a message to the Saints. Buccaneers are at home. They're on Sunday Night Football. They could be the team that goes out and sends a message to the Saints. And Kamara looking like he has a minor injury. We'll see how. But I think the Buccaneers defense is going to be good enough. They're going to shut down Kamara, force Drew Brees to use his arm, which is not conducive. I am going to go with the Saints, the Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers in this one. Buccaneers win. Buccaneers cover. Last game on the docket, the New England Patriots against the New York Jets. The Patriots, the 7-point favorites. Little disappointing that the Patriots did not sell at the deadline. But they are getting Gilmore back. Bill Belichick does not want to call it a season yet. This will be a game where I think the Patriots are going to look like the old Patriots for one night. They're going to take care of business against the Jets. They're going to win. They're going to cover. And Bill Belichick's getting pretty frustrated. But Bill, the GM, has not exactly been great. And it's going to be a feel-good win for one night, but I think ultimately the Patriots are going to be a 7-9 team. But here we are. We are getting midway into the season. Where do we measure up these teams? I'm going to start off with the AFC East. You've got Buffalo. I think they are a lock to make the playoffs. And Miami. Those two teams are... Miami, they are right on the bubble. It could be week 17. Buffalo, Miami, week 17 could decide the AFC East. And then you've got the New England Patriots. I think Patriots are going to be probably going to be having to weather a bit of a rebuild going on. But we're going to find out a lot about Bill Belichick the last 8 weeks of the season. How much they're not. Bill Belichick does not like to tank, but I think the Patriots are a 7-9 team. You've got the Jets. Jets are going to probably finish 0-16, 1-15. Jets will probably get Trevor Lawrence. Now on to the playoff picture in the AFC North. After last week, Pittsburgh's likely going to lock down the 1 seed and the NFC North title. Baltimore, they are a solid 5 team. Cleveland, they are on the bubble. Cleveland is going to be one of those teams fighting for that last wildcard seed in the AFC. We're going to find out a lot about the Browns in the coming weeks. And then you got the Bengals with 2 wins. They're starting to trend up, though. They still need some pieces on defense, but the Bengals are starting to trend up in the NFL. We're going to find out a lot about Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow in year 3 of year 2 of Burrow and year 3 of Zach Taylor. Now on to the AFC South. We thought Tennessee was going to start pulling away with the division. Not so fast. Indianapolis could make this a 2-horse race. Tennessee and Indianapolis play each other the next 2 out of 3 weeks. We're going to find out a lot about these 2 teams. And then you've got Houston and Jacksonville, which are already on to 2021. And now on to the competitive AFC West. Kansas City. Kansas City is pretty much chasing Pittsburgh for the number 1 seed in the AFC at this point. Pittsburgh's going to win the West and run away with it. I mean, Kansas City's going to win the West and run away with it. The Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders are going to finish second. Raiders, we're going to find out if they can make a wild card run here. The schedule is very winnable for the Raiders the next few weeks, and I think the Raiders could easily finish at least 9-7. So I'm going to probably say the Raiders are at least going to be in the wild card bubble. Denver. Denver is one of those teams, they're not great yet, but I think Denver could be a team that could start playing spoiler for other teams down the stretch. We're going to see more development out of Drew Lock the next few weeks and Noah Fant. So Denver's one of those teams I thought it would be this year, but I think next year they're going to start breaking out, and the Broncos are getting better. And then you got the underperforming LA Chargers. Yeah, it's not working out for Anthony Lynn there. I think it's going to be a very attractive coaching vacancy come 2021. On to the NFC. We'll start with the NFC least. It's Philly's division to lose. Maybe Washington could make it a race, but it's going to be 6 or 7 wins, gets that division. And then Dallas and New York, Dallas is likely just going for draft picks at this point and tanking. Daniel Jones is just not good enough with the New York Giants, and the team just needs more pieces before we start. But Dave Gettleman's got to go this offseason with the New York Giants. NFC North. It should be Green Bay, but, we're going to find out a lot about Chicago the next 8 games. Chicago maybe starting to fade after a strong start. Detroit Detroit's a toss-up. Can Detroit start getting... Detroit's defense has actually been better this year. But can Detroit get into the wild card race? That's another question. And then Minnesota, another team that's just tanking. They're probably going to move on from Kirk Cousins at some point, but the downward cap is going to make it a lot more difficult for the Vikings to move Kirk Cousins this offseason. Going to the NFC South. Tampa Bay, lock. Tampa Bay could be battling for the 2 seed at this. Tampa Bay wins on Sunday night. I am going to lock Tampa Bay in, likely as a 2 seed in the NFC West, in the NFC playoffs this year. Saints win 2 seed, loss 5 seed. And then you got Carolina. They've overachieved a bit this year, but I think they're a year or two out. Matt Rule, keep doing what you're doing in Carolina. The wins will come. Atlanta. Well, we're going to find out a lot about Atlanta. This is an evaluation process. Who wants a job in Atlanta next year? A lot of these players are playing for jobs, and I think it's becoming an evaluation process there. And maybe if they rattle off enough wins, you might see Raheem Morris get the interim tag removed in Atlanta. And finally, the NFC West. Seattle, they're likely going to be the number 1 seed when the season ends. Seattle's just that good. Arizona. Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to be a playoff team this year. The NFC is just that bad that we're probably going to see a 9-7 Cardinals team make the dance this year. LA Rams, the schedule just gets a lot tougher for them. Rams will probably finish around 8-8. Jared Goff's an average quarterback at best, but they do have good pieces with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on the D. And the 49ers, man, all the injuries they've just had this year, they're likely moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to retool this offseason, draft a quarterback, hopefully. They could be right. They could be the one that gets back to relevance in 2021. That's where we are halfway through the year. But here we go with where I think the teams are, where the playoffs are. We're going to start AFC. 1, Pittsburgh. 2, Kansas City. 3 will likely be whoever wins between the division between Titans and Colts. You're likely going to be the 3. The winner of the AFC East will be the 4. 5. That's where Baltimore will fall. I think 6 at this. If I have to say who's going to be 6 at this point, it might be Miami. I think Miami could end up cracking in as a 6 seed. Or the Raiders. I think the Raiders are my 7 as of right now. But a lot could change. We're going to find out a lot about Miami, Indianapolis, and Cleveland in the next few weeks. Now on to the NFC. 1, Seattle. Seattle's going to be the 1 seed. 2, Tampa Bay. 3, Green Bay. Could be Chicago. That's going to be very close. 4, Philadelphia. 5, Saints. 6, Bears. And 7, Cardinals. That's where I've got it at this point. Now it's on to the stretch run. Everybody have a good week. Enjoy your football. We'll be back Saturday night after UFC Fight Night. Santos versus Teixeira. Stay safe. Have a good night.